So a couple of months ago, I had picked up this KL24 Roterfaden notebook cover. This is a little bit of a smaller format than the A5. This is actually a B6, so this is kind of right in between the A6 and the A5 sizes. So it's not quite the sort of assortment that you get with the A5 notebooks. It's a little bit smaller than that, so there's not really quite as many notebook options that are out there, but I did find a few. When I had originally picked up this notebook cover, I had intended to use it at a conference, and I did over at the Adobe Summit conference. That was in Las Vegas in March. It really worked out great for getting the schedule out and having that sort of visual of how I was going to attend the different sessions, and then different notes from the sessions, and just another sort of scratch pad that I used too. So I'll walk through the notebooks that I used for that particular configuration. But now I'm kind of using it more for creative work. So when I'm in the different bands and trying to figure out schedules and gigs and rehearsals, I want to try to figure out exactly how I want to do that with the notebook, where I keep track of not only the schedule, but also things like set lists and different photography events, what gear I'm going to bring in terms of lenses and the bodies and all that other good stuff that makes part of the planning process into why I would want to keep an analog notebook and have that set up for my particular system. So I'm going to walk you through those configurations and what I really like about this Roterfaden KL24. Again, it's a cactus leather notebook cover. It's been fantastic, so looking forward to showing that to you. All right, so this is the original Cactus KL24 that I had picked up from Roterfaden. I just wanted to walk you through a couple of the features of this. So this is what they call a cactus leather, and it looks like it has sort of a leather pattern to it, but I think really this is more of a rubber or a plastic material. It's super durable. I really like how this feels too. It's really nice and smooth. It's very easy to wash. You can wipe it down really easily. You can see that there's really nice stitching all around it, sort of a typical Roterfaden fashion. And then on the inside of it, you've got this really nice wool that's on the inside of both the front cover and in the back cover. And then this right here is kind of more of a sort of like a canvas. It's a nice sleeve that you have on the inside here, so you can throw in something like a to-do list, or whatever other kind of list or bookmark that you want to place in there. So that's kind of nice. And then when you flip it over, you have an inside cover here. So this will put other or hold other kinds of things like cards or whatever other inserts. And then you've got the 3 clips, which obviously make it rather unique, right? So these are the clips that you can use to put in various notebooks and other folded pieces of paper. This is the B6 size, so it fits B6 size really nice. And I don't think that there are protective sleeves that you can use for these like they have for the A5s. So that's just something to note. And then on the back cover here, you've got a nice zippered pocket. You can, again, store different things in there that you might not want to have fall out. So I've got a couple of just, business cards in there. And then you can sort of close that up, and then you've got a really nice Roterfaden logo here. It's a red thread, which is what Roterfaden means, is red threaded. And then you've got a loop here for pen or pencil, and then you've got your elastic band here, which you can sort of pull through and have out of the way, or you can also use that to close up the notebook cover when you're on the go. One of the things that I did notice when I had my notebook cover closed up here with the band is that I thought it was going to make an indentation there, as you can see, but it actually didn't end up happening. So it actually held up pretty well. It just sort of molded back into its original form. So it didn't make an indentation there, something like what might happen with real leather. So that's just something to note. All right, so the first set of notebooks that I had put in this notebook originally were for the Adobe conference that I attended a couple of months ago, and this is how I set it up. So my first notebook was this one here, which is, I believe this is a Hobonichi, right? So that's a Hobonichi notebook. This is a graph paper, and you can see that I didn't really put a whole lot in here just yet, but I did have some of my schedule sort of listed out here, and it was a really nice way to just have that schedule listed out. And I did use fountain pen ink, but you can see that there's a bit of ghosting there too, so that's just something to note. Again, it worked out really well just to list out a schedule and have all my different locations, and I had a really quick glance at my schedule to see what time they were at, where I had to go to, and if there were any backups for this. So that worked out really nicely. Again, you're going to have a little bit of ghosting, but this is nice thin paper. It's a nice thin notebook. So if you plan to, not want to have a really thick notebook, then this right here is a really good option to have in there. So that was what I had in here for the very first set of clips. So let me open that up in there and just Put that back in there and I'll show you what that looks like. You just pick a page, close that up. So there's notebook number 1. Okay, the next one that I had is a Leuchtturm. So this Leuchtturm is a soft cover. It's a B6 Plus. So this one is a pretty decent one. It's not too thick. You know, dot grid paper, which I think most people are probably used to. I had put all my notes from the different sessions in here. And then what I did is I took pictures of these later and I transcribed those, and then that made its way into my note-taking system, which is digital. But again, I was able to, you know, just sort of list out the session number and then the title of it, and then just take notes. And you know, that seemed to work out pretty well for all of my different sessions. So this one is really, really good. I think it's a typical Leuchtturm. It's got the bookmarks that you can pull out and put in there. It's got an inside pocket in the back. Comes with some stickers and such, so you can decorate it all you want. But this one turned out to be pretty well. And I had this one in my middle set of clips. So I'll just put that in here like that. Okay, so this one right here was my second set of clips. And then on the last one, I had the Roterfaden. So this is also a dot grid notebook. This one is the format B6, as you can see here. This one turned out really nice too. This one fits perfectly in there. But this one I really didn't use a whole lot. I was thinking I would use it for additional notes, but I didn't actually end up using it. So I had it in there and I wanted to just have it in case I needed to use it for whatever other reason, but I actually did not end up putting anything in that. So my main 2 drivers for this when I went to a conference was this Hobonichi calendar, or I'm sorry, this Hobonichi graph paper notebook, and then my Leuchtturm B6 Plus. And that seemed to work out really well for a conference. So let me just show you that closed up again here too. So you can see the elastic band goes around. And you can see the little bit of an indentation there. Not a huge deal, but I think it's, you know, kind of works out really well to keep it closed when you're on the go. And it's nice and compact. It's not as big as an A5, as I said, but it is a little bit bigger than the A6, which is a little bit more of a pocket notebook. But this one seemed to work out really well. All right, so the last thing I wanted to just mention here too, in this particular setup, is that, you know, I was carrying around pens. I was using fountain pens. I kept them separate. I didn't really have anything in the elastic loop. And let me just show you something about that elastic, or actually it's not even elastic. It's, you know, kind of stiff. But in that loop, it fits a pencil relatively easily, right? That just slides right in there and it doesn't really move. I think that's probably okay. I wanted to have something more of a practical use. So I have my Roterfaden multifunction pen. This has, it's got a blue pen, it has a red pen, and then it has a pencil 0.5. So this one fit in there just right. So that's in there nice and snug. It's not going to go anywhere. Plus I kind of like the way it looks with the notebook cover as well. So, you know, if you want to put something in here, you can't really go too much bigger than that. So for example, I have a Lamy 2000 multifunction pen that will hardly fit in there. So you can see it's a little bit thicker, which makes sense to, you know, sort of have it practically, but it's kind of really a tight squeeze. So I wouldn't recommend having something like that in there. So, you know, try to keep it a little bit thinner. I also have a CP1 multifunction pen. This is from Lamy. That one also is a really snug fit. I mean, it does fit, but, you know, it's really snug, and I'm worried about this right here stretching out over time. So just something to be aware of as you decide on what kind of different pens or pencils to sort of put in that loop closure. Okay, so that's how I have it set up for the sort of conference configurator, as I might call it. So let's walk through the next configuration, which is for the creative work. All right, so for my creative work, this is how I have this configured. Again, I have my 3 pairs of clips. The first notebook that I have in there for creative work it's also a Leuchtturm. It's a B6 Plus, but this one is actually a planner, which is kind of nice. So it's got calendar for the year view. It's got each month laid out in columns, which you can use. And then it goes from, I think it's an 18-month calendar, so it spans a little over a year. You also have the section where you can put in a project plan, so 2026 and 2027. I haven't used that yet because I don't necessarily intend to use the project plan for how I use it for creative projects, although I do have creative project plans. I've got my separate notebook set up for that. But this is something that you can use. This is pretty useful. But what I do use is the monthly view, and I'll tell you why I use the monthly view, which has been actually really nice. So we're in June, and you can see here, this is when I started this. In June, I've got the different events that are in here, so I can sort of just see at a glance what the events are. And then you'll also see that you've got a little indication here of for a page number, so you can have a page reference here. This has been kind of nice because then what I can do is I can just go to that particular page and find the details of that particular creative event. Okay, so for example, this right here is page number 3. It was an event that I had photographed. So I can go to page 3 and I can see some of the details of what I had photographed there. I usually do a retrospective after I do an event for photography. And if it's a music gig, then I usually put a little retrospective and then list out the songs that we may have played. So this is how I use the Leuchtturm planner, which is really nice. This was probably going to last me through next year around February, and then I'll have to pick up a new one. So I think this will fill out, really nicely for that. So again, in Leuchtturm fashion, it's got the pocket in the back, elastic band there, and you can also use some of the stickers that it comes with. So this has been, really great for just some of the creative work that I do and making sure that that's all planned out. All right, so that is in the first set of clips. So let me close that one. And the next one that I use, which is kind of just a graph paper, which would be for things like set lists or for, the different gear that I have to bring when it's a photography event. So which lenses am I going to grab? What are the different accessories that I might need to bring? What's the lighting gear that I have to bring for that? So that's what I would put in this particular notebook. I haven't really filled it out too much yet. I haven't had a lot of photography events that have been too complicated, but that's the intent of that particular notebook. So that'll get filled out over time. And then the last one that I have here is the Roterfaden grid. This one, again, is the B6 size. This is a really good notebook to just sort of, keep sort of things like just notes. So I've got notes in here about like some of the music that I'm learning. It doesn't come with page numbers, so I have had to add some page numbers, and I reference those from the other Leuchtturm book. So that seems to work out pretty well too. Again, this is just for, sort of different notes along the go. I use it for, like I said, different notes on some of the music that I'm learning and just, stuff that I have to make sure that I remember for when I practice on my own. So that's what this right here is for. It's just for taking notes while I'm actually at events. So got plenty of room there. This is a B6 size. It's been really great so far. I kind of see probably getting through a lot of these notebooks that I might have to refill by the time it comes to February, where I'll have to get another planner notebook. So that's the configurations I've got for creative work, and it's been working great so far. It's not too thick, not too heavy to carry around. I can just throw it in my gear bag and I'm pretty much good to go. Okay, so that's my KL24. This is the Cactus leather notebook cover, and it's been fantastic. I plan to use it for a good long while before any new system might come about. It's been working for me great so far, and if I have more updates, then I will let you know about it. All right, till next time.